Welcome everybody. I'm here with Robert Ressl, who is actually local to my area. I'm out here in Northern California, crossed paths with him, just kind of running on the trails and just getting to know the community out here. And I came across his story, and it's a remarkable one. One, Robert is a high caliber achiever, from the little I do know about him, but a very accomplished athlete in the ultra trail arena, where he has won some tremendous races. So as of late, I mean, he's won, not won, but he's finished top 20 in the North Face 50 miler. You also represented Austria at the World Trail Championships. And then most recent, you had a fantastic 2024 season. You capped it off with a victory at Miwok and ran a tremendous time. I believe it was 9:06. And then with that, I mean, you're just an accomplished person. As I mentioned, achiever. I believe you're an exercise, have a master's in exercise science, which I kind of want to learn about that and how that correlates to your life. And then you also kind of have a background in soccer. So I had a connection there because my family, we grew up soccer players. I kind of made the transition to running. My brother made a transition to running, and we found some success. I'm just curious to hear a little bit later about, what your thoughts are from soccer players transitioning into endurance athletes. So with that, thanks for joining, Robert. Appreciate the time.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it was great. So I was just telling Robert that I listened to a podcast that he did in 2018 with the Rambling Runner. I knew that, Robert, that you're from Austria. So I just want to say, what kind of motivated that move to come over to the United States, and what did that spanning your life look like once you made that transition over here to the United States?
Yeah, the motivation was that I fell in love with my ex-wife, which brought me over here to the States, first to Boston, and then to California. And I think overall it comes down to that I just take chances when they're, presented to me. I just think, life is really precious. We only have one of it, so don't want to miss out of any opportunities that you have. And yeah, I don't like to think back and regret that I haven't taken a chance that I maybe should have taken. And life changed pretty significant. I was teaching in Vienna in Austria prior. As you mentioned before, I have a master's in physical education, exercise science. So I've always played with the idea of working as a coach and trainer, which I did start in Boston, and then once I moved to Sacramento in 2016, built a coaching and training business here through 2020. I still coach, but it's just very small now, and I went back into teaching, which allows for a lifestyle with paid vacation off, which is a little bit more similar to what I'm used to coming from Europe. So being self-employed was, you work, it doesn't really feel like work because you're just so consumed and full of, admiration and love for what you do, but the working hours do stack up, and the rest is more or less available than often. Yeah.
So when you moved here, and then obviously you're doing some teaching, some coaching, and also are you using your exercise science? Are you applying that to your current teaching field currently?
Yeah, I mean, it's the foundation of everything. It's the foundation of my coaching. I'm mostly self-coached. I worked for a couple years with Cole Watson, another local accomplished ultra trail and road runner, which was cool to be coached and get a different point of view too. I really appreciated the time with working with him. But yeah, my foundation of exercise science is, at the end of the day, I think there's principles that we need to be aware of, and then it's like recipes in the kitchen. Like you just need to find the right taste for the right person. Like training per se. Like if you just look at it on paper, it's fairly simple. If you use workouts and you structure them in a way, it will foster growth. I think the biggest difference or that a coach can make, like there's plenty of training plans available online nowadays, and with AI coming to the forefront too, it can be more and more tailored to you personally. But I think the biggest impact of a coach is just to make your athlete to believe in their ability more often than not. We kind of, like for myself too, we all start this running thing at some point. Like for me, it was the Boston Marathon, and it was like 2014, visiting Boston and seeing the marathon, and then found out that the qualifying standards and was like, this is absurd. Like I'm not gonna run a 3 or 5 marathon. Like it seemed so fast. And then my ex-wife was like, well, why not? Like just go for it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go for it, but it's not gonna happen. And at the end it did, and it was, I mean, I worked for it, but it did take much less time than I thought. And once you break through the ceiling that you didn't think was possible, then it's like this endless opportunities from there, because you just don't know anymore, like what am I capable of. And I think that is where, so the psychology, the mental aspect of coaching is really important. You just need a good relationship with, either you need to find workouts to make yourself believe that you're capable of something, or you have a coach that you're working with that supports your vision and supports your growth and like challenges you, but also make sure it's realistic what you're setting out for.
Yeah, those are super good points. I think mindset, I mean, in any aspect, I would say, of just whether it be professional life, whether it be, performance in sport, or just, just attaining just goals in general, is just having a positive mindset and just approaching it, one, in bite-sized chunks, but kind of set yourself up for big goals, whether it be, chasing a Boston Marathon or just finding what's next. It sounds like you're a goal-oriented individual. Would you consider yourself that? And would you share a little bit about, just what your approach is on just goal setting and in general?
Yeah. I think I am very goal-oriented, but for me, the goal is like, it needs to grow for me internally. So I'm at the stage now, I have been like running competitively somehow since almost 11 years soon. So it's like there's a lot of goals checked off the list. So I'm not a type A person, so like chasing numbers is not enough motivation for me. It's like I'm looking for like an experience or a challenge. Better, like if you look from my racing list, that's just different races in different terrains and different distances, different altitudes. I just love tackling something that I want to see if I can do or not. And everyone is like, a lot of people are driven by this. Whether a race goes well, most people feel like they left something out there and they didn't push themselves hard enough. Or if things go wrong, then there's this belief. And we all know, like if we train for these distances for a long time, and you have, whether you're a new runner or a seasoned runner, you have experience and you kind of know, you can gauge where your abilities are. So it's just, there's so many variables on those. Like the longer the distance, the more things can happen that you were just not really in control of, which is, I think, during Miwok this year, my experience really helped me because it was a nasty day. It was stormy and rainy for most of it, and I had some ideas going into what I wanted to do for that race, which was I trained to be able to run around the course record, which is like 8:45.
Yeah.
And I think I was able to do that. But the week before the race, when the forecast got the way it did, I was like, I abandoned like that strategy, and was like, the only thing that I need to focus on is to stay dry and warm. And like each time I had my crew, I changed clothes, and even if I was just dry for 30 seconds, it's like, it does make a difference if you're like cold and you're like exposed to wind and weather, but I was looking forward to see my support system and then switch into something dry for a minute and then move on. So it creates like those goals along the way, and like ultimately I think it was what made this race so successful. I was just, you can either waste energy by being just mad or like disappointed that you have to navigate these conditions, or you just don't waste any energy on that and use it to move with it. And like if you're moving with whatever you have on a given day, I think you will always have the best race outcome, whatever that is. Like I think I've learned that too. I'm just grateful and like more appreciative, and like all my racing is being fueled more. I have more appreciation for what I'm doing. While what you're mentioning earlier, 2018, a lot of my racing I think was more fueled with insecurities and just like I really wanted to prove myself, and there was like a lot of loose things in my life that also were fueling me, but more from an angle of like not for coming from love, but just, I don't know, fear, some more negative emotions. And that's just not as sustainable as like this year. I just embraced my community, embraced people that are close to me and that are important to me, and let them in on that journey. And it like creates this wholesome project that is a lot more important to me than just like my experience on a race. Like,
that's fantastic to hear. I take it a pretty similar approach. One, I think that running in general, but especially trail running, one, it has many mental health benefits, of course, with that, whether you're trying to chase after, big goals, or if you're just enjoying mid-pack or just kind of enjoying it. But I just love that aspect, and even the learning aspect about it. And I won't go too deep in the weeds into my race, but I actually had a race the same week that you had. So I was in a storm, and I remember I made some bad moves. I was out there in a wet t-shirt for like a few hours, and it's just the little stuff that you learn along the way. But even like you'll laugh about it and just gain some humility out of it. And that in its sense is a mental boost and just a mental support that a key token that I was able to take away. I'm like, hey, remember that time when I was just stuck out there for 3 hours at my own? What a dumb move that was. But hey, I'll probably not do that again in the future, I hope. So, just little nuggets like that are just kind of fun to take away. So.
For sure. I was like going to many training runs building up to Miwok, and every single time I went to the bay, it rained. And I had like some conversations. I was like, there's no way it's going to be raining at race day. Like at this point, I don't know why I'm still going there. It doesn't benefit me for the race. And then I was like, oh, Okay.
Yeah. It was pretty windy for you, right? I heard the winds were pretty bad because you were racing. No. The winds were pretty bad, right?
Yeah, like the aid stations, the tents were like blown over coming in, and like, I mean, I felt bad for my friends being out there too. You know, they see me for like a minute, and then it's me continuing running, but they're like freezing for another couple hours until they see me. But yeah, it was, again, like I just focused on what I could do in the moment, which is, you know, hydrate, eat, try to not get carried away and start running too fast too early just to stay warm. I did so eventually at 30 miles. I was like, is this like getting ridiculous? I'm like, I need to increase my body temperature somehow. So I ran up cardiac probably a little harder than I would have, but otherwise, but it was just like that. It's a long race. It's 9 hours, so you just keep reacting and do what you can do in the moment. And it was I was so elated afterwards that I finally pulled it off to do 100k that I can be proud of.
That when I saw your time and just knowing those conditions, I mean, anybody, on a perfect day, like I said, you would probably ran well under 9 hours, I'm sure of it. So
it was great. I mean, I'm glad it's over. When it was over and the sun came out during the last hour and I finished, my eyes were like still, like it looked like it was foggy, but it was just the rain and the wind. Like my vision was just like, was foggy for a while until one of the other runners had like eye drops and that solved it in a few minutes. But yeah, it's just things that you don't think about.
So what are your biggest takeaways from that training block? I mean, it seems, I'm sure it went pretty well. Like, is there, I mean, and I saw just from afar, you seem pretty focused on that training block. Could you just describe what that looked like?
Yeah.
That journey looked like?
Yeah, the training block was different than what I did do in the past. I was leaning heavily on Jason Koop's strategy of like the block training. So starting in like December, I started to do VO2 max intervals 3 times a week, like 5 times 3 minutes. If I could, uphill, but I was working in Davis and living in Sac during that time, so there was at least one of those workouts was on flat surface. And then from there, and that led into Salmon Falls, I went into 4 times 15 minutes tempo blocks. So those were generally runs minimum 2 hours up to 3 hours, with 4 times 15 minutes at like tempo effort on trail with 7.5 minutes of rest. And that really boosted my fitness. Like that block went for, both of those blocks went roughly 6 weeks. And then the final block was steady state, 3 times 30 minutes at what is around 100k pace, so very goal-oriented effort. And that pace just kept, it was all by heart rate. So, and the paces, especially during steady state, they just were getting faster and faster. And it was like, okay, if I can't pull this off to run for 100k, like, but I believed I could in the end. And it was, during the race, it pretty much, matched. So it was a really good build-up. I was very focused. Once I do pick a goal that I feel connected to, and with Miwok, I love the Bay Area trails. It's like our trails up in Auburn are beautiful too. No complaints, but every time I get onto Bay Area trails, it's just like, it's magic. So being able to run 100k on those trails, and then the community that was around me to support me, and yeah, just I was locked in. And Miwok, it's, you know, the indigenous tribes use those trails for like hundreds, if not thousands of years. So it's like you do feel that energy, and like it's just honoring people that were here a long time before us, and you know we are moving on their land. So it's important to recognize that, and the race does a good job of acknowledging the history. So there's just so many things that made me connected to the race, and I was appreciative of it. And yeah, it was wonderful.
That's awesome. Yeah, congrats on that 2024 season. Really remarkable. How was the recovery on that? And being like an exercise science from an exercise science background, what is your belief on recovery? I mean, I believe you're 38 now. I'm 41. I mean, recovery isn't quite like it was 10 years ago for us. So what's your belief just on your daily regimen to, you know, just keep the body healthy with as many miles and vertical gains that you do per week? So
yeah, I mean, after a goal race like this, for me, I mean, I can say how I used to be, which was like one thing into the next, and it just was, yeah, mentally and emotionally not sustainable. So I think my body, physically, I'm able to, you know, I am able to do a lot of workload, but the mental aspect, I need longer to recover and to build that hunger back up. So for me, that was afterwards. I ran with friends every now and then I went to Europe to see my family for 6 weeks, where I ran if I felt like it. But a lot of it was, you know, seeing people going. I visited friends in Spain and family, and it's just like, yeah, I didn't want to miss out on any of those experiences just by prioritizing running again. And then once I came back, I built, and I will never be not active because it has always been such an important part of my life. But training for races, I take, after goal races like Miwok, I take long time off of focus. Mm-hmm. And then once something new comes my way, I'm start building back up. And like I need to be very structured just with time. If you work full time and you also want to have a social life, and when I do train, it is train focused. It's a lot of hours. It includes also driving a lot, so it's sometimes like up to a second full-time job that I need to spend to get myself ready. For me to feel ready, I just need that kind of preparation. So yeah, I do need to do small things. Like these ones are like one of my favorite scrapers.
Scraper, yeah, I love
yeah,
that.
they're just like next to me. It's easy to navigate the like just tightnesses, working on like calf or feet issues. I've had one major injury, and that was Achilles tendinopathy following, well, leading into Moab. I just didn't know that I had it, and then I did Moab on it, 240 miles on it, and that was obviously not the best. So it took me a while to recover from that. Still, I don't think that right foot is ever gonna be like 100%, but it doesn't impact me when I train or race. It's just I'm navigating constant, like a little bit of pain there. Coming from my exercise science background, you know, I used to do all of the strength training around. I believe in functional strength, so I did a lot of with kettlebells, some weightlifting. I do yoga. Yoga really helps me to ground myself and just like, yeah, I think through the years I just went from probably a little bit too intense to like now I'm just looking to keep I want to have inner peace. So whatever I need to do to get rest and recovery while also getting in the workouts, this mix is important. I think that's the fine line that a lot of us are kind of balancing on, because we do have those goals, and sometimes, we are kind of think or are taught that more is gonna get you more, but that's not the case.
Yeah.
Because if you're running a lot and then you also do all the other stuff around and you lift, and it cuts into your recovery, into your sleep. So
yeah,
I think ideally it comes in waves. When you run less, you do more of the other stuff, and then there's more specific and higher the running volume. The training that is supposed to support your running is going to decrease a little bit because there's just not enough time. So you may focus on imbalances and some core work and some, making sure you're addressing soft tissue tightness, but you will likely not be able to also lift 3 times a week heavy if you're running 10 plus hours a week. It wears you out more than the benefits of it. So
yeah, that's great that you kind of bring that up, because last year I was trying to, regardless, I needed to be in the gym 2 or 3 days a week on top of what I'm doing for my running. But now
yeah.
I'm feeling I'm getting more benefit by just doing my daily vitamins of, whether it be stretching, mobility, balancing exercises, just the simple stuff that you would consider daily vitamins. I feel my body is just responding a lot better, and I'm feeling much healthier day to day, once I go into a training ball like that. So.
Yeah. I mean, those are exactly, having this like daily maintenance regimen is helpful. I use mini bands too before workouts especially, and it's like it's a 2-minute sequence as a warm-up. Like, it's like really, it does not take much, but it fires the muscles that need to be firing. I do that warm-up before races too. And yeah, sometimes, especially when I'm not focused in a focused training block, I definitely slacking on a lot of that stuff. But yeah, that's just, honestly, that's where I'm at. Yeah. I would like it to be different, but it is what it is, and I think we need to find what works for us. And for me, it's just, once I'm locked in, I'm locked in. But it takes something to get me there.
Yeah. So you brought up that I've seen that you did Moab before. Do any of the 100-mile distances or beyond that? I've known you've done stuff in the past, but does that still entice you at all? Is that a distance that you're kind of willing to tackle in the future again?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to run Western States. Like, that's like kind of, I feel like and I would like to run Western States, at least being in a competitive place. I'm not sure how many more years of that I just have in me emotionally, so that just takes a lot. And then it may turn into, a different experience. But yeah, Western States is one of the very few things left that intrigue me, that are out there, that are also like Western States intimidates me. It's like hot. Mm-hmm. There's overall is more down than uphill. I think people underestimate what that downhill segment does between like Robinson Flat and then Swinging Bridge is like I don't know, 5,000 feet descent over like 14 miles or so, like that can really make or break your race if you
Especially at that point.
at that point, and then you hit the canyons and the heat. So there's two things that I do have a lot of respect of, which is racing in the heat. Although I have adapted in my years as a Californian to the heat, but it's still, you gotta have to respect it and the downhills. So I have respect from Western states, and it's something that I would like to experience. Outside of that, I don't know. The 100-mile distance doesn't call my name at the moment. I've done High Lonesome, which was like at very high altitude. That was another thing that I was kind of shying away from. I didn't really do well at high altitude, just running or hiking. So I was like, okay, let's tackle it and do a 100-miler. And yeah, it went okay. I think the altitude did get to me towards the end, but I also wasn't in an emotional space that I needed to be to pull off an effort like that for 24 hours. It was slipping in and out between being engaged and just being really tired and not having it. So wasn't the right mind space to be in. And yeah, just did, again, the best that I could in where I was. But it was a great experience. So yeah, 100-milers are different. Every race will be different too. On every day it will be different. But for now, Western States, I think, is like what intrigues me that's left to do.
That's like me too. I'm just gonna run a ton of 100Ks until I finally get into Western states, and hopefully it's before I'm 45, so I could give like a solid effort. But we'll see. So, but I'm sure that you have quite a bit, and you might be able to mix it up and maybe get a golden ticket. I don't know. I'm sure I think you're capable.
I appreciate that. I think I was going for that 2019 and then 2020, and I think 2020 I would have I was in good shape, and I would have done the Georgia Death Race that wasn't as competitive. I think I would have had a good shot, but since then, the sport just has exploded. I've had a few years where I just needed to figure out other things and wasn't like as competitive. So I think now even getting a top 10 at the golden ticket race, like 5 years ago, you would have likely won every race if you were like 11th or 12th. So it's different, and maybe I just don't believe in myself enough, but I think I'm also realistic where my abilities are at the moment, and golden ticket is not gonna be it. But we'll see. I'm in the lottery for the 6th year next year, so 32 tickets. It's gonna be another 3 or so years until it's more guaranteed to get in. It's a long time, and maybe if it doesn't happen, then I also would be. I would like to experience it, but if it doesn't, running has given me so much at this point that I will survive if I don't get into Western states.
Well, I think they'll bless you sooner than later. So I'm rooting for you in that aspect. So switching gears a little bit, I mean, not to get too deep into it, but you have gone through some adversity in your life. You came back from a brain injury, a brain tumor. I kind of want to just go down the aspect, if you just want to touch a little bit on that, but then also, what was that mindset like? Because you're a high performance athlete, you were a high performance soccer player back in your day, I'd say 2008 and prior, and then getting back. What was that shift in mindset, and what was the motivation to continue that achievement of being a high performing athlete?
Yeah, I was also in school during that time and like finishing up like the master program. So, and a lot of that was physical. So there was the question if I could finish it. So was kind of like, working on this. At this point, it feels like, my whole life depends on what I choose as my path. I generally, if I have adversity, I respond to it with, I just put my head down, and with what it was after those surgeries, I just wanted to come back stronger than before. It's like it unlocks this, and I think you see this in like Adam Roach, like, oh no, not what's his, David Roach. David Roach highlighted that too after his cycling accident that he had this spring. It unleashes an energy which is like, you want something is coming at you that's out of your control. Like, I didn't choose to get brain surgeries. He didn't choose to have an accident, but you do have the response to it is in your control. So for me, the first time, 2008, the goal was to be able to continue school, and also with soccer, I wanted to get back to the level where I was before. And then all of this took about a year, and then I felt like I surpassed my level, and it's empowering, but it also took a lot of work. And then I had to go for it again, 2011, which then I took my lessons that I learned from the first one, but also, there's some fatigue that then comes with it. Like, it's always, I already proved to myself that I could overcome and do this. So now I have to do it again. Makes it a little bit more difficult, mentally and emotionally, which, in a way is reflected in my running and racing too, because there's not many things that I do twice. It's like I tackle it one time and I feel intrigued by it, and then it's more often than not enough to wanting to do it again. But the takeaway is, it's a lot now. A while ago, last surgeries were 13 years ago. I've had follow-up appointments this past year, and everything looks good. But it's a part of my life. It made me I learned to appreciate the value of just being in the moment, and I believe life comes with a lot of obstacles, but ultimately it's beautiful. So just keep moving along and make experiences and build connections, and
I agree with that. It's like your back's against the wall mentality, and the never give up mentality. I think it just a lot of people. I mean, I don't want to say a lot of people don't have it, but a lot of people don't have it. It's just like, it's a burning desire that really separates some people, but there also is that joy in it, as you mentioned. So just learning to appreciate, things, because you've been through those tremendously difficult times. So thank you for sharing that. So back to the running part of things, what does 2025 look like, jumping off of a strong 2024? Or do you have some big goals? Do you have races set up? And how's that approach looking like for you?
Yeah, I am building my season currently. I'm gonna stay local for the first few months, and just do support local race directors and do local shorter races, which is for me 30Ks and maybe sprinkle in some 50Ks until the summer. And yeah, we have a lot of beautiful local races within the Bay Area and up here. And I feel like we're losing some of those races. So like coming out of the pandemic, not all like race directors were able to recover as well. And then the boom around, people just jump on, and that's, I don't want to be putting too much like judgment or whatsoever on it, but people do like experiences, and often bigger companies have really good marketing and promising experiences, and like then I don't know, I don't want to blame UTMB alone for this, but there is like it's just a lot of beautiful races that are disappearing from the calendar, or just not getting the people they deserve. Like Coastal Trail Runs, for example, was they're small race directors, but their races are absolutely beautiful and well organized and affordable, and like, so they used to support me a lot at the beginning of my trail running journey, when I wasn't in the place where I could afford racing as much either. So they were really supportive always, and I want to see if I can race a few of their races. And Paolo with Single Track Running, local. Gonna do Formidable. This is actually the only race that I'm gonna be about to do for the 4th time. So that's like something special for me.
I just registered for the half, so I'm gonna run a shorter distance, but I'll be running the half at Formidable. So
awesome. Yeah, no, it's a cool race. I love it. It's like the climbs, they're steep, but they're relatively short. It's actually a pretty runnable race for the rest of it. So yeah, I'm gonna do some races around Auburn, the Bay Area. I haven't been. There's like Pacifica. I've never raced that area, so I want to do a race there.
The coastal trail runs. They actually, one of my first trail races was the Pacifica run that they hosted.
Oh, really?
It was absolutely beautiful. Yeah, some beautiful views, especially on a beautiful day up there.
Yeah, no, that's exactly like that's what I'm looking forward for, especially the first half of next year. I want to get out more, because I do feed off that energy. I want to share that experience with friends and people that I care about, because it just makes it a mutual experience, and it's, to me, that's so much more has so much more value than just me going out to a race by myself, then finish the race, then do some small talk, and then you leave again. But if you have shared experiences and beautiful places that I haven't been to, like, that's like I'm super excited for that. And I'm sure those experiences will grow my competitive spark, and then I'll pick something what's gonna be the goal for this year, which I do need a qualifier, so it will probably 100k sometime in the summer or fall.
Yeah, my qualifier is going to be, unfortunately, a UTMB.
I mean, that's not bad. It's a great. You're doing canyons, or are you going to France?
Canyons. Yeah. It should be good. I think. I know this is about you, but I think I came off a decent CI. I'm a little slower than I would like, but I'm just going to take that. I'm feeling healthy and going to take that fitness into this season, and we'll see what happens. But I just try to just go after a solid 100k. So
that's. I mean, if you're bringing the speed from the road, like, it's totally beneficial. Like, I had some good build-ups in the past, and I used marathons often as a, just to get in shape, and then like use that fitness and trails. But for me, it just once I got a time that I thought I would never be able to get to, I was like, I got sub 240, 239 in 2018, and then I was so happy that I did that. But then, the amount of work it takes to like shave more minutes off, and I'm like, I personally, it just does not motivate me to put in this effort, and then, maybe I ran a 236. Like, who cares? I don't care. So to me, it didn't matter. So from that moment, I transitioned slowly only into trails, which definitely put the damper on my road speed for sure.
Okay, the roads are cool, but the trails are cooler. So
I think, if you can do both, I think it actually is really good. Like, because you're training in different, you're training different muscle groups. You train in different, you have different stimuluses aerobically and anaerobically. So I think from a running perspective and training perspective, if you can keep some aspects in your training from road running and do some road races, I think it's very beneficial. It's just not for me.
I agree. I agree with that transition of mixing in a little bit of both. So how has, in the community out here, obviously in Sacramento region, specifically up here in like your Auburn area where you live, how have you embraced the running community? I mean, you're living out there now. I see you on Strava. You're pretty much running out there every day. What has that experience and the time just living in that environment been like?
Yeah, it's certainly easier now that I don't have to commute from Sacramento. I still, my community is split, so I still spend a lot of time in Sacramento, which I enjoy. And then I work in Grass Valley, which opened up a whole new trail system. So a lot of times I just drive back home from work and, 5-minute detour and I get on a trail, and that's really cool. Within Auburn, the community has grown. I moved up here, but so have a lot of other of my friends. Like Reed is up here. Reed Brewer and I have been training together for a long time now. So we have like a group of people. We have a WhatsApp chat called the Auburn Trail Nerds. So it's easy to just throw in if we're going on a run or looking for a long run, throw in a time and a place, and maybe someone joins you and maybe not. But Auburn is we have so many trails around here, and now for me is the best time of the year, like when things are turning green again, and it's beautiful. Like running in the winter in California and then going into the spring, you don't have to worry about snakes being out, which is a very nice benefit too, because they're gone. So you don't have to check your step all the time, and it's just nice temperature, perfect running weather. So it has been good to be up here.
That's great. So I thank you for the time. I'm going to ask you one more question here, and then we'll wrap it up, because you spent more time with me than I thought you were going to, so I appreciate that. The last question. So we're rolling into the new year. So just people coming from a coaching aspect, people chasing their goals, maybe just wherever they're at, whether they're mid-packers, back of the pack, or just, people trying to achieve big goals. What can you say is the biggest piece of advice that people could roll into goal setting for the new year?
Yeah, I've worked in in coaching and before in personal training, and it's always the time when people set goals, and I think they need to be sustainable. So with chasing goals, it always takes time to build consistency, and that initial investment is really important. Like, it only takes 6 weeks of consistency to build a habit sometimes, but during those 6 weeks, you have to be dedicated. Like, that's where, people say there's motivation, and then there's just, you have to be dedicated, and sometimes you don't want to do things. I have this all the time. Like, I just went through a 6-week block where I actually felt really good, and finally got myself back in a place where I was like, okay, we are training now. And then I got a cold and it got disrupted, and like I'm rebuilding myself back up. So whatever goals you have, it needs to be your goal. It can't, like, it's really important that you have an intrinsic motivation to work towards this goal, and then you need to give yourself time to build whatever that work it takes towards the goal to make it a habit, and just stick with it. Because once you are past this 6-week barrier, then it gets easier because you incorporated it into your life. Yeah.
So the 6-week method, ingrain it, and it'll hopefully set you up for success to be sustainable, pretty much.
Yeah, it's more likely that it will not, unless your goals they need to be reasonable, because you can't burn yourself out within the 6 week either. Like, what I'm not saying is, if you're like going all in and then you feel after like the first week that you're already almost injured, that you push through. That is not what I'm saying, because then you're doing too much too soon. So it needs to be an appropriate goal within where you are in your life, and then it just takes time and patience. And I think that's where a lot of us are struggling with patience, because we want immediate results with less investment. But when it comes to our body, it just takes a long time for it to adapt to the things that we ask from it.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for all the insights. It was great getting to know you a little bit better as well. And we'll be seeing trails, man. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good luck at Canyons and in the build-up, and we'll see you at Formidable.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
We'll talk soon.